Okay, hi, I made a weird noise. I didn't know if we were starting or not. Hi. Today we are going to do the finally long-awaited redo of our wool video. We did one a long time ago and things have changed tremendously since we started. So we wanted to just give you an update on how we like to do wool. Now that's not to say that's the only way to do it, and it's also not to say that there are patterns out there that do things differently. This is how we like to do it, okay? So what you're gonna do is the first thing you do is you find a pattern that you like. This is one that I'm going to be showing you dips and dabs of little bits of different patterns today. This is one that doesn't have a lot of wool in it, but it's got a really nice saying. So it's got a little bit of green, so we're going to be showing you how to start with that. So the first thing you do is you find your pattern, and the absolute first thing you check is, did they reverse the pattern? Because we like to use fusible web. And if they didn't reverse the pattern, that means either A, your leaves are all going to be going the wrong way, or you need to reverse the pattern.
Unless you just want to put your pattern in reverse of what it actually looks like on the picture.
And that's hard. I find that's hard. So what you can do is, this is the really weird way to do it, is if you have to reverse your pattern, take it to a copier, make a copy of the pattern sheet so you don't ruin it. Take a really nice Sharpie marker, and then trace all the lines. It'll ooze through the back and you can just trace off those lines. All right, so the point to that is what you've got to end up with. This is a fusible web we absolutely love. It's called, I loved it and I can't remember the name of it. Soft Fuse. It's a Monday morning, kids. Soft Fuse. It's like a fusible web, like Heat Bond, Wonder Under, all those, but it is extremely, extremely lightweight. So it's not going to make your wool stiff, but it does the job. It sticks things down. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your pattern pieces, and on this one it's nice because she did do an exploded version, and all you're going to do is you're going to trace off all your pieces onto the paper side of your Soft Fuse. And I do tend to label things because I'm just that anal, and I think it's a good idea because then it makes it easier for you to lay it out.
But as you can see, they're close together, but there is still a little bit of space separating them.
So then what you're going to do is you're going to cut these out, and you're going to cut them out just, I had a pair of scissors here, yeah. You're going to cut them out just a hair past the line. To me, I don't like cutting it on the line because I like making that final cut through all the wool and the paper.
So that's cut it out sometimes on the line. So it's what you figure out what works better for you.
So you see how you've got the little bit of fusible web. Then you're going to go and you're going to iron this on. Now, wool is not directional. There's not a right and a wrong side. It's a yarn dyed. Technically, I mean, there are a few pieces, odds and ends, but if there's technically a front and a back, you're going to iron this onto the back. All right. Then what you're going to do is you're going to cut out on the line. Cut out on the line, and you have your shape, and this is your end up shape that you want it to be when it's all done, ready to stitch down. That's going to be a leaf, a little maple leaf. So you're going to trace, you're going to cut out roughly, you're going to fuse it onto the back of your wool, and then you're going to cut out on the line. Now, most irons have a wool setting. Start with that. Don't go slapping it on cotton or linen. Better to ease up to a hotter temperature than to fry everything. Okay?
If when you go to pull the point of pulling the paper off and it's not coming easily, heat it again.
Yep, just give it a little bit of a, or if you've done it way too much, then you've just cooked it and you start over again. All right? So that's how you prep your pieces. Now let's talk about tools for a minute. I'm going to go backwards. Sorry, we're going to go backwards. On a big piece like this is going to be a pumpkin. You can tell we're in the fall mode right now. This is going to be a pumpkin. Now, this is a pretty big piece of fusible web to use. So what you can do is once you trace off your pieces, like we did on my little leaves here, these are way too small. But what I did is I cut out the center of my fusible web before I fused it on. And then I was able to take that piece right there and use it for another. Like I probably could fit, yeah, there you go. I probably fit my leaf, and that's what I did. So you only need to have the outside edge. All right, so that's one of the things. Okay, let's talk about tools. Scissors, we've talked about scissors before. There's a ton on the market. You want nice sharp ones, and you don't really want long ones. You want something fairly short. that's the first thing. Needles are the second thing. We like to use the chenille needles, number 24s. And the nice thing about these little guys is they have a very big eye. You probably can see it on the table. I don't know if you can. Just trust us. They have a nice big eye, so they're easy to thread.
But they're not a crowbar.
But they're not a crowbar, yeah, and they've got a sharp point. Which brings us up to the next thing, is a needle threader. We have talked about these many, many times. These are the clear needle threaders, and what you do is you put that through the eye.
Hang on, let me get there.
Well, why aren't you? Okay, there we go. So you're going to put it through the eye like that, okay? And then you put your wool, or your thread, your thread, through the little rectangle, pull it down, and your needle is threaded. Ta-da, ta-da. Wouldn't be without these. And then what I did was we have these little teeny tiny scissors, and I tied them on with a piece of ribbon or whatever you've got. So first of all, I don't lose this down in the couch cushions, or these down in the couch cushions. You've always got something to cut your thread with. So you've got your needles, you've got your needle threader.
The needle threader does have a thread cutter on them too, though.
Yeah, but I just find that it's easier just to do it with the scissors. If you have to make any marks, like for example on this little guy that we're working on, you see how there's a white ring because there's going to be a whole little lace of bittersweet around here. You need to be able to mark on that. This is the pencil that we like the best. The thing you have to remember is do not write like a normal pencil like this, because you see what's happening? It's just dragging. What you do is you go to the side and you go like this. And then it will get your shape on there. And then this will either erase with your eraser or it'll rub off eventually. Okay?
Or your thread will be covering it.
Or your thread will be covering it if you're doing a good job. Exactly. All right? So, some instances, and this is what we used to use in the old days, but I like having this on hand. I used it on a project last night where I had these 1/4-inch circles I had to get down. Well, it just wasn't working with a fusible web, so I just put a little dab of glue on it, held it, it was dried, and it stayed there until I had it stitched. So this is another thing I like to have in my arsenal.
And that's Roxanne's Glue Based It.
Roxanne's Glue Based It, yep. And a lot of you, if you've done wool, you've got these things in your stash. Okay, couple other things. We talked about fusible web. Fusible web is to stick the wool onto the wool. Now, when you're going to go ahead and stitch, sometimes you need to stabilize your wool, especially on big pieces. If it's a little piece, like something like this, I really didn't need to stabilize it because it's going to be little. But if you're doing a fairly big piece, you want to stabilize it.
Or if you're doing on a non-wool background.
Yes, you're right. Like a flannel if it needed stabilizing.
Or cotton.
These are 3 stabilizers that we really like. This one is ultra weft, and I mean, they're stabilizers. They do the job. This is an off-white. This stuff is called Shape Flex, which I can never remember. The beauty of this one is it does come in black and white. So if you're doing something really dark, you want to put the back on. And that's just to give it a little bit of body so that it doesn't flap all over, and you don't have to worry about, if you're pulling your stitches, that you're going to have rumples. You don't want to pull your stitches, but anyways, that's the whole point on it. Oh, and then the last thing that we really need to talk about are threads. Now, again, there's a ton of different things on the market. These are dominantly the 2 that we use. This is a wool acrylic blend thread. They come usually on spools like that or like that, whatever. I like these because it just blends in and you don't really see it a lot. It's just going to do the job of getting the wool pieces to the background. And I love working with it. That's what I used on all of these. Sorry, there's a thread sticking out there. So that's what I used on that. Now, when you get to the point where you want to do something a little bit showier, that's when we like to switch to the Valdanis. We only carry the variegateds, and it's size 12. We only carry the variegateds because we think that it's the most fun.
Except for black and white.
Except for black and white, yeah. If you want to do something like vines, and of course I didn't grab anything that I can use, but I was looking, because Marty's going to show you in a sec how we're going to lay this one out. And I don't know if you can see. Can you see these little stitch lines right here? That is going to be something like this. Look at how cute that's going to be. That'll give us that fall-y look. So that's the whole point, is you can have a little bit more dominant looking pieces when you use the variegateds. So we like using them both. It really makes no difference. They both do the same job.
The Vildani also comes in a size 8 and a size 5, which those are actually bigger threads. The smaller the number, the bigger thread. We just like the 12 because if you're getting something a little bit more detailed, then you're going to have an easier job.
Okay, now, oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. This book is my invaluable go-to book. It's just a little guy, so it fits in my buckets that I'm doing, and it is only $8.50. It gives you stitches, basic stitches that you will use time after time, and you never can remember how to start them. So that's why I like having this one on. You know, there's the traditional buttonhole that you use all the time. Oh, there's the colonial knot that I have never ever been able to master. I just use a French knot, that's fine. So anyways, this is a really nice book to have just in your arsenal. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch spots, and Marty's gonna show you, after you get all your pieces cut, what you have to do in order to lay it out, okay? So Marty's gonna hand me the camera.
Hopefully that drop ain't it.
Now the one that she's working on is a fairly big piece. It's actually the one that pumpkin was on that I showed you. And we're going to use a piece of prairie cloth for the background. It's nice to have sometimes different textures. It gives you a little bit different look. So that's why we wanted to go with the prairie cloth, which is a little bit rougher weave.
A little more rustic.
Rustic, there you go.
So as we showed you, this is the pattern that we're going to be using. So the 3 pumpkins and the leaves. And
those white marks are the
that's the sunshine.
It's the sunshine. Yeah. It's not marks on the wool or the prairie cloth.
No. But what you kind of want to do is find middles. So this is my middle. I can see just a tiny bit of the crease on the back of it. And then they did this as a pillow, but we're actually going to frame this. We're going to put it in one of our rustic barnwood frames. So we wanted a little bit more of a wrap around. So they called for a 16-inch piece. We went to 24 so we could have that nice wrap around. But you can kind of see that most of the pumpkins, I tend to not stress a whole lot over layout to a certain extent. You kind of can see that these are mostly sitting on the bottom, more in the middle. So if I know that I have roughly the middle of this piece and then put my things in the middle, that I'll be good to go. And plus we gave ourselves enough room to play and push it around whatever we want to do. So once you're ready to go, what you want to do is find the bottom piece, which is going to be this taller pumpkin.
The underneath piece, right. The most underneath piece.
And you can see the Teri window paned all of these, so it's very easy to just kind of pull off the papers.
Window painting is, remember when I cut out that center part.
So that pumpkin, and really guys, don't stress over this. Just kind of eyeball. Start laying things out. You can always go back and tweak them if you want. But this one was just slightly off-centered. So I'm just going to plop that one there for now. Once you get the 3 big pumpkins down, everything is built on that one, so it's not that big of a deal. So this one is overlapped. And I think I'm going to bring these guys down just a smidge more. Making sure that they're kind of running in a nice little straight line, although they did jock that one. Having the picture in front of you is like priceless, because you can just keep referring back to that. And I know sometimes people they'll have you do tracing it off onto plastic so that you can have layouts.
If that makes you happy.
If that makes you happy, go for it.
Yep.
I would rather get this on here and start stitching.
Yep.
So, but that's a preference. So if you have something that's not window pane, what you can do is kind of just bend that over, and you can see that the paper will flip. And then you can just go ahead and pull things off. So now this is just a matter of tucking all of this stuff in where they had it.
And this is why when we talked about reversing your pattern as opposed to just winging it, I am a little bit more obsessive about this. So I would have a hard time in my mind trying to reverse it, whereas this, everything is laid out exactly like it's supposed to be. So for the person who's beginning or the person who is a little bit more obsessive, make sure that it's going the right way.
Ah, these leaves pretty.
This one is nice too because there's a lot of stitching in the background that's
which
going to
really
really
makes it-
add a lot of
And
interest.
This is where on Teri's, remember she said she labeled things. So the R, I'm assuming, is right,
Yes.
left, and middle.
Ta-da!
Which makes things way easier for me. So all we got to do is tuck that under the top. And the thing is, it doesn't have to look exactly like the picture. If you don't like a tall stem, then
Make it a stumpy
just a
one.
little one.
And I tend to make the stems a little bit longer, figuring you can always tuck them in. You can't make them longer.
Or if it's a stumpy one and you want a longer one, then do it.
Redo it.
But isn't this is already starting to shape up beautifully.
She picked out the fabrics. That's why she's
That's why I like
waxing poetic about it. Yes.
I think I like it just a little bit shorter.
And do you want it tilted one way? Do you want it tilted to the other way? Make it your own.
You can do kind of your own thing. So we're down to a few acorns down here on the bottom. Who doesn't love a good acorn in fall?
I think your acorn is upside down.
Why?
Oh, that's the way it went. Okay, we went slightly different coloration on that one.
Well, to me, an acorn is a little bit. It doesn't matter. That goes back to whether you like things. What did Aunt Joan always call them?
Anatomically correct.
Anatomically correct. Yes. And then we have one more acorn over on the other side. Ta-da.
So this is what I'm gonna grab this.
Let me grab it.
This is what we started with, and this is what we're going to end with.
And then, so now what I would do is, I do like steam when I'm anchoring them down. So I will put it on the wool with a steam setting. And you want to press when you're doing. This iron isn't on, but I'll give you kind of an idea. So what you want to do is make sure you do have water in your reserve, but you just park it on it. And I kind of do push down on it a little bit, and I'll count to about 12, 15-ish.
But double check because you don't know what your iron is going to do. You don't want to fry it.
So once you count, you just kind of lift it up, move it to a new spot. Count, do your thing, lift it up, move it to a new spot. And the thing is the reason why you have to park it on there so is the thickness of the wool. You've got to get that heat pushed through that layer of wool so that it will melt the fusing into the background.
And another thing I know that sometimes people criticize using fusible web because they say it makes it A, very stiff, or B, it smushes the wool down because you're ironing it.
Right.
First of all, the soft fuse is very light and it does not stiffen it. And when you press the wool down, it rebounds.
Right.
It's a natural fabric. It is going to rebound. So even if when
you're
you take the
using it,
iron,
it's
yeah.
gonna-
When you take the iron off, it may look like it's, oh my gosh, it's a pancake. Don't worry about it. It's going to fluff back up. Trust us. It really works.
Okay.
So now, I don't know if we really need to go through the stitching part of
I
it.
would
Do
like
you,
to
Marty?
do just a little bit if you don't mind. So give
Okay.
it back to me and I will.
Okay, so
take
Marty's
it.
going to take this and I'm going to show you how to do a blanket stitch.
Actually, I'm going to come behind you.
Okay.
Would
Do you
be
want to sit
better.
down?
No, I'm going to go right over your shoulder. So.
This is another stupid little trick that we try to remember to do. On this pattern, where's my picture? Ugh. This is one of those pieces that's layered. So you start out with this, and I'm going to do all of my stitching on it. And I did put the fusible web on the back.
So that's another thing too, Teri. Flip it back over. When you're ironing your appliques onto that, remember you've got to leave the paper on the back of the black, or else you're
good
going to have
point.
it stuck to your ironing board.
Forevermore.
Now, it'll peel off, but you'll
Yes.
have fusible there for a while.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Whatever your base is, if you have the fusible, remember to leave that paper on. Either that or you have to use a Teflon pressing sheet, one or the other.
Yeah, and it's just easier to leave the paper on. But then you've got to take the paper off before you start stitching.
Right.
because you don't want to have to rip that all off. So then, okay, so this one is layered. So this is the top layer. This is the pattern we're using. So we're doing this top one, right? Yeah. So there's going to be the black.
So you have scallops on scallops.
And on scallops, right. So the worst part is when you do this and you're like, okay, do I put it there? Do I put it there? Do I put it there? So what we did is I put little hash marks when I did the tracing. So we put a little pin when we peel the paper off. So now we know that that's going to line
Those
up
are the
there.
two scallops that you put together.
So we know that that's the way it's got to be rather than trying to figure it out. All right. Okay. So to do probably the blanket stitch or what else do they call it? Buttonhole stitch is probably the most common stitch that you're going to use. I've just always put a knot in mine. That's the way I roll, whatever. It doesn't matter if you're right or left-handed. You can go this way, you can go that way. A lot of it just depends on the piece. So you're going to grab your needle. You're going to come up on the background. I'm not on my applique. I'm just on the background, on the black. But I'm right next to it. So then I'm going to hold this with my thumb, and I'm going to take a little bite. And I made a little backwards L.
Notice that the needle is coming on top of that thread she's holding down.
That's why if you keep your thumb there, you will always do that. Now the thing is you're supposed to try to make sure that all your stitches are the same length and your width apart. But you know what? This is hand done. It's not machine done. So it's not going to look like it. We don't want it to look like it's machine done. So you're just going to be doing the buttonhole stitch. And I don't know if you can see, but I did that on this piece right here. Okay. Now, another thing is we're just going to, go ahead.
Show them how to fix it if it doesn't work out.
If I don't go on the top?
Yeah.
Okay, so for example, if I do this and I oops, and I go underneath, and I have this big old loop there, just slide your needle under there, and there you go. So that's how you fix it.
If you mess up.
Right. Now, when you're all done, say I'm all the way to the top and I'm ready to end it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my needle right through that, right next to where I came up. And that's how you end it. So it looks like you're continuing on. Now, another thing you can do. And just take a couple stitches on the back and knot it on the back. Now, another thing, there again, that little book I told you about, or if you have a book, or go online, whatever's easiest for you. There are other stitches you can do. This is one of my favorites. I'll have to see if I can, because it's always starting it. That's the bugaboo. We're going to pretend on this one.
Just your hand.
I know, I don't know how to.
Let me go, hang on just a second. Let me go on this side of you.
This is called a stem stitch, and it's one of my favorites, especially for these little guys, because you know what? They're going to be kind of hard to do a blanket stitch. So what you do is you go like that. Whoops. Let me get a couple in and you'll see what I'm doing. But it's called a stem stitch. Whoops. And what you end up doing is you're making a stitch on both sides of that little leaf. Whoops. Needle threader, alarm. Hang on just a second. Marty used to laugh at me because I never used this, and now I cannot be without it.
I can thread my own needle.
Well, that was, you can, but you may not want to.
Well, it's so easy to do it, and you're not fighting with it.
Right. So what I'm going to do is on this one, I'm going to make a stem right down the middle. I probably should have used like white thread so you could see what it looked like.
Moving around a lot, that's all.
Oh, sorry. And then I will go back and I'll do just these guys all by themselves. But again, this is just another option. Play with it. You don't have to do the same thing.
Buttonhole everything.
No, and there's.
You can if you want. But.
Yeah, you can if you want. There's also, you could just use a straight. What do they call it if you just use a back stitch? And that's kind of like the buttonhole, but not exactly. I'm not doing very well because I'm trying not to move my hands, and it's not being very easy. And that didn't get. But anyways, you get the idea. Make it your own, have fun with it. And this one, this is the one I said before. On this, there's going to be all sorts of stitching. I don't know if you can look up close on this. And if you wanted on this, this would be fun because I do like glitz. You could get seed beads. These are all little French knots, but you could get seed beads if you wanted to do them. And that would be fun too. So you, again, make it your own. Okay, Marty, what else do we need to talk to them about? I think that's the basics.
So once you get the stitching done on this part of it, you're going to layer it onto there.
Give it a press.
Give it a press because you do have fusible on the back. And then you're going to buttonhole around the black.
Right, around the black.
Now, at this point, you can either leave it the way that it is. I wouldn't recommend it. But the other thing you can do is then just put a backing on it, which will not show. So that's what Teri's got a piece of, and we like flannel. I mean, it stands up to the wool very nicely. The Marcus Primo flannels are a nice hefty weight. Plus they're there's no right and wrong side to those guys.
And you don't see a white line.
And you don't see a white line on the edge.
Because they're yarn dyed.
Right. So what we would do is maybe put a little bit of the fusing on the back of her.
This part.
That part. Fuse it to there. Cut it out, and then go ahead and buttonhole the edge.
Right.
And
then if you wanna make it a hanger, you can put a little thing on it, a little ribbon or something like that to do it. If you want to frame it, we're going to do a whole framing thing in another couple weeks. Yeah, we'll do that too. But I think it's funny, and Marty and I have noticed this too. We don't sell as much of the summer, spring colors. You got to use them. You got to have them, but this is the time of year everybody just starts gravitating towards those wonderful fall, winter colors, and it's just wonderful sitting on the couch watching it. I only watch cartoons these days because that's less stressful for my world. But that's kind of it. So if you have any questions, email us. Seriously. I don't know if you can get us. I mean, we're in and out of the store all the time. We're more in than we're out. But call us. And the other thing, too, with the wool, we've kind of decided that we have to show them a couple pictures too, Marty, because of those ones we just finished, like that yeah, I can't think of what the name of it is, coneflower. If you need to pick out a bunch of wool, call us and we'll set up in a time and you can come on in and pick out your own, because we realize it's very, very hard to pick out online. So Marty's going to, is there any other new ones up there?
You know, while I'm doing this, would you run up front and grab those spot dies?
Oh, I can do that.
So this is some of the wool we have now. And so sometimes you've seen some of these projects before, yes. And this little hydrangea was a new one, but it has really nice fall colorations on that. Who doesn't love a pumpkin and a crow? It's funny, this little penny one, it's called Peggy's Pennies. It's a sleeper project, but boy, it's a, if you're really into beginning, it's a really nice project, very basic, and it's an all year round thing. All year round thing. Bounty was always a favorite of everybody's, and so wasn't that Welcome Autumn, that apple basket. So very sweet. So very sweet. Here's some of the new ones. And then these are the ones Teri just finished. So these are big table toppers, like a 28-inch diameter. So there's the coneflowers. And you know how she was talking about the variegated? Let's see if I can move in here. You can see on this green how variegated that, I mean, it's not as obvious on the camera as it is in person, but you really get to see that very nicely. And then that was the spring version of that one.
This was my broken leg quilt. This is the one I sat up at Marty's when I was incapacitated. And I was doing all those corn stalks.
And crabbing about every one of them.
But that's another good example of the variegated thread. That was one green and one goldy greeny thing. Okay, and for those of you